First of all, I want to say that we're supporting for the 6th year Curing Kids Cancer. Obviously, I have the shirt on here today, but a nonprofit organization devoted to funding cutting-edge childhood cancer therapies was started in 2005 by the Owen family after they lost their son Killian in 2003 to leukemia, and they've raised over $12.5 million in that time. And it's an outstanding organization, and I hope everybody would support it. They do a phenomenal job, and I really appreciate the Owen family sponsoring this. And we're looking forward to Saturday, obviously playing Missouri here at Williams-Brice Stadium. Noon kickoff. We need our crowd to be there and be loud. They do a lot at the line of scrimmage. They got a good football team, but we need to be out in full force, and I know our players will appreciate it. I know our fans will be excited about getting us back home. They got a really good offensive football team. Drew Lock can make all of the throws. When we faced him the last 2 years, he was an outstanding player. Really good skill people around him at the running back position. You know, Crockett and Roundtree and Beatty are all really good players. Speed on the edges. Hall and then Johnson and Brown are guys that really can run vertical and change the direction and change the complexion of a game quickly. And then the two tight ends are 6'6", 250, 260, and run and have ball skills. I think both guys play on the basketball team where they should if they're not. But they're really good athletes. 4 out of 5 guys back on the offensive line. Derek Dooley's our offensive coordinator, is new to this year, but has done a really nice job of tying in some run game with them, which they ran the ball with Josh last year, but they're a little more committed to me and still playing with a high tempo offensively. Defensively, Barry's a defensive head coach. It all starts up front with Terry Beckner. I've known Terry. I recruited Terry when I was at Auburn. He's a really good football player, very disruptive, but that's the way they play up front. They're very disruptive in the front and movement and different things they create for you. They do a really nice job there. Garrett's a really good linebacker. Brandon Lee flashes to me at Sam linebacker. They got a solid secondary and good on special teams. So we need to play well. Injury report for us: Eldridge Thompson with the shoulders, probably questionable. Practice today, but I don't know that he could be in a full contact situation. I'll know more probably tomorrow and Thursday, obviously, moving forward. Jamias Williams has his shoulders probable. He did practice today, but I want to see how he handles some contact. He was in a non-contact situation. Jake Bentley with the knee is probable. He practiced today. He had to get treatment today and had class after that, so I apologize he wasn't able to meet with you guys. Jacob August is going through the concussion protocol right now. I don't really have an update on that at this time. Brian Edwards practiced today, is probable with an ankle, but moved around. We'll see how much more he can do tomorrow. JT Ebay is out. Nothing serious, but I don't think we'll get him back till probably after the open week with a sprained knee. Trey Smith's having surgery on Friday, so he'll be out for the season. Josh Belt continues to have an ankle. And DJ Warnham, I still think we'll get back after the open week. And that's kind of where we are. We need to, as a team, do the simple things better. Bottom line is whether it's catching the football, whether it's holding on to the ball, gap control defensively. That's really the emphasis to me with our football team. Let's do simple better. And that's where we are, and I'll open up for any questions.
Raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you, Dave. First one.
Will, looking at Jake, was he able to move around pretty well today? I mean, no concerns at all with the knee?
Well, no, he's still sore. But again, it's a long time till Saturday, and I think he'll be fine.
Go to Colin on the right.
With JT out, who do you look for to take over that spot? And do you kind of, I guess, change up rests with Nick and Jam potentially get in there?
Well, Jam still, we got to work through some things with him through the rest of this week. And he practiced today and moved around well. But Nick Harvey and Javon Charleston and R.J. Roderick, Jalen Dickerson repped in there today. So those guys will have opportunities, and whoever practices the best are the ones they'll play on Saturday and practice well. If they practice the right way, they'll have an opportunity to earn to play on Saturday.
Well, where do you draw where's the fine line between you want your guys to play really intense on defense and then some of the dumb penalties that they had at Kentucky?
I think that there's an obvious line. We were the least penalized team in the Southeastern Conference a year ago. And we played really intense football. And when you self-inflict wounds such as unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, we're not going to tolerate it. It's been addressed. If I'm in a situation where I can sub and get you out of the game, unfortunately, we're very thin in some spots. So I have a hard time subbing. I don't want to penalize our entire football team because a guy makes a really poor decision, but it's being addressed. And we have discipline in our organization. There was 11 penalties on the other side of the ball, too, on Saturday. There's 22 total penalties. And so, I'm not tolerating it at all. It hurt our football team in some really critical situation, and as much as anything, they hit in yardage as far as flipping the field on some things that really, really hurt us in the game. But, again, we're the least penalized team in the SEC a year ago, and we've got discipline in our organization.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to ask you, JC makes the penalty, and about your leadership on that. Immediately, Javon grabs him, and Keir Thomas practically punches him in the face. Was that good for you to see?
Well, again, they know how we need to respond. And JC's a freshman. He made a mistake. He got, you know what? At the end of the day, he's really excited about playing for South Carolina, and we step over the line sometimes. I would rather say whoa than giddy up. And with JC Horn, I have to say that a lot, which is an awesome thing to be able to say. I wish we had more, to be honest with you. Because the really good players I've been around, you had to say that a lot. A lot. You had to pull them back. You had to pull them off the field at times. It's a good defense I've been around. You had to do it a bunch. It's really fun. Really fun. And we'll get there. You ever seen Earl Thomas play?
Or DJ Swearinger?
Yeah, I love him. Go ahead.
Well, when you talk about doing the simple things better, does that mean at times guys are focused on maybe doing too much instead of?
I don't know about that. We just need to do the basic fundamentals of what we need to do better. You go back and look at it, and we had, had some guys open that we missed. We had some guys we threw the ball, we didn't catch it. We fall down running for a touchdown. I mean, there were some things we just need to do. Some of the simple things, really. We get bounced out of a gap on a 24-yard run. We should have never. One of our base calls and what we do, we're calling that call to settle everybody down. And we get bounced out of a gap, and again, we just need to do the simple things better. That's bottom line.
Coach, how are you and T-Rob kind of addressing the lack of takeaways on defense?
That's been extremely frustrating. You look at the first 4 games, we've got 4 turnovers, and as much as we emphasize it and go through it, that's been an extremely disappointing part of not creating momentum for our team, creating field position for our team. In those situations, so it's been something we're continuing to address, and we got to find ways to get the ball off people.
Outside of injury, do you and your team have confidence in Jake Bentley as the starter?
100%. What
gives you that confidence?
The way he commands our offense, the way he played. Didn't play well the other night. We didn't throw and catch it very well versus Kentucky. We'll call it like it is. It wasn't all on him, and. At the end of the day, our football team, our players, myself, I have 110% confidence in Jake and how he'll perform Saturday.
Well, how are you, or how do you guys look at your offensive identity right now? Are you still think you're that same up-tempo team that was talked about all offseason?
I think it's helped us. I think you look in some situations, you just go back to our last ball game, and as far as running the football, I think the tempo helped us in some situations. I think, as I said, in the summer and going into training camp, it's more about dictating the tempo of the game. There are some times we're a little bit more methodical as far as those things are concerned, and we felt like in the last game, especially because of the multiple fronts, we needed to be able to get into the right play, and we brought 2 plays to the line and let Jake, go from there. So, but the tempo has helped us, and certainly stressing the defense, I think, as much as anything else.
Are you guys doing as much as you want to?
Well, again, I think it's game to game, and at the end of the day, when you have 4 turnovers, it's hard to continue the tempo. I mean, it's hard, and you go, 3 and out. I get three separate times in the first half. It's hard to create that. So we've got to stay on the field more.
Forgive me if this is what you were addressing with Pete's question, but defensively, do you need to do less so that your guys communicate better and understand what you're doing better?
We're at a bare minimum right now from where we are installation-wise, as far as giving the offense some issues on game day and what we're carrying into a game.
Can you quantify that any compared to where you were, say, last year? I mean, are you doing 75%? Are you doing 60%? What?
I'm not good at math. Me either. I know. So I don't know. At the end of the day, it's not about what team did what last year. It's about what we can do with this football team this year. And we're carrying enough into a game to be successful. I do know that. And to play better.
if Jake can't go on Saturday and you have to send Skonecki out there, what are the things that he does well that will help him lead the team to a victory on Saturday?
Well, I think Mike throws the ball extremely well. Again, he just hasn't been exposed in that many opportunities. I thought against Coastal when he came in, he threw the ball extremely well. The deep ball to Drake was an outstanding throw, and he did some nice things Saturday night. So we got confidence in Mike. And as far as administering and running offense, there won't be a lot of change of who we are when Mike's in the game.
Back over here to Pete.
Well, I remember after the Georgia game, those first couple of days of practice before the Marshall game got called off, it was the players, and you talked about how spirited it was, how good the attitude was. Are you seeing the same thing these couple of days with these guys after that?
Yeah, I think in terms of we do a lot of good work at practice every day, regardless of the circumstances, and those are always more spirited than the scout work. But you got to get scout work to get some of the looks that you need to see that maybe your offense or defense doesn't give during the week. But we do at least 4 periods a day versus each other, and all of those are very competitive and very good for us. That's how you get better as a player. You go, iron sharpens iron. You get better going against each other, and that's what we do a lot.
Going off of what Pete just said there, Coach, have you noticed anything different? Because players, I know Jake specifically said it has to be on us to continue to raise our leadership and get this team on the right track after Saturday. Have you noticed anything different specifically in the last couple of days of practice?
No, I think these guys have taken ownership in what we need to do, and as a whole, starting with me, to do a better job and put the guys in situations to be successful. And then when they're in those situations, they take the ownership that they've got to do to make it happen.
Chad Terrell, any closer to being
Yeah,
available
and I'm
for you
sorry,
guys?
Chad Terrell practiced today and we'll play Saturday. Yeah, meant to say that.
And just kind of with the carry on and how he's progressed so far.
He got some snaps today with the first group, and obviously he's a guy that continues to progress well, and we'll see how it goes.
Debo said the receivers were doing a little extra work on the machine after practice. How do you address the drops? How do you practice that and fix that?
Do the simple things. I asked Debo, how many digs have you caught since you've been at South Carolina? He said, a bunch. Yeah, you dropped one, all right? So let's don't get out of hand here. Old Coach Muschamp loses his temper every now and then and says some things he probably shouldn't say, and I'm wrong. At the end of the day, how many deep balls has Brian Edwards caught? A bunch. And he's going to continue to catch a bunch. Both of them are really good football players, and they're great competitors. And you know what? No one hurts more than those guys do. So they'll go back, get on the jugs machine a little bit, and iron it out, and let's go. Let's go play.
Coach pointed a team that's also high tempo. What does that do for your defense, and how much does that prepare them?
Well, you got to get lined up. You got to get your cleats in the dirt. That's the biggest thing that when you play a team like this, and you got to understand that part of it. We did tempo periods again with our offense today. We'll continue to do it tomorrow. It's just all about aligning, assignment, eye control, right spot, and don't let the tempo get you out of kilter. That's the bottom line. You can't let it get you off rhythm, and that's what it's done for in a lot of situations. So those to me are the critical things we've got to do.
Is there more good on good work, knowing that you guys do high tempo as well? Or?
We always do good on good. I mean, we're spending half of our practice going good on good, and that's not just now. It's what we've done all the time. We didn't have as much depth our first year. We couldn't do it, but now as we continue to build it, we can.
After 4 games, well, overall, how do you like your teams tackling fundamentals, as in going for the waist, going for the legs, and trying not to go up top?
I think it could be better. I think if you just had to say defensively, we've been inconsistent in the run game, and I think tackling is part of that, and gap control is part of that. Those 2 things would jump out at you. Turnovers, not only having 4 after 4 games, as much time as we spend on it, as effective as we've been. Is obviously disappointing. Our first down efficiency has not been very good. We need to be at 60%, second and 7 plus, and we're right at about 48, 50, which is generally you're going to create, behind the sticks a lot. Although we have been very good, productive on 3rd down. Offensively, got 9 turnovers. It's hard to win. It's hard to win on the road against a good team with 4. Very difficult, and putting yourself in those situations and putting the ball in jeopardy as much. Disappointed, obviously, in the running game against Georgia and the throwing game against Kentucky. Just far too inconsistent to be successful.
Is it accurate that DeCarrion is your 3rd string quarterback at the moment? Given that, when the uncertainty with Jake's situation, do you have to spend some time this week and come up with an emergency package that fits what he can do and at least rep that more than you would normally?
I would say it's the same that we would do with Michael Scarnecchia or anyone is at a defensive tackle position. We're going to call the things that they can handle and not just throw the whole playbook at them. So, yeah, I mean, I would say that there's certain things that DeCarron does extremely well. And, when he's in there, those are the plays we're calling.
Will you rep those more for him this week than you normally would, your third string?
Yeah, but those are things that are a part of what we do anyways, whether it's in the run game or whatever it is. So those are a part of what we do. It's just things he feels more comfortable with. Sure. And it's no different with Mike. There are certain things he may feel more comfortable than Jake does. So we're going to identify those things that he feels comfortable with and go with those things.
Rashad leads the SEC in interceptions. What have you seen from him so far this season? What do you think has attributed to that success?
Well, I mean, I think, the two deep balls in the last two games were really nice plays. We're in a quarters concept, and the double post is what hurts that, and that's what both of those situations were. But a nice job of going and finishing down the field. I think I don't know that he's been targeted very much. I'm just going through my mind. In 4 games, I wouldn't say probably 6 to 12, maybe 10 times, in 4 ball games. And he'll get targeted Saturday because they're going to take 10 or 12 shots, regardless of how good the coverage is, and throw the 50-50 ball and see what happens. So we need him to continue to play well.
Drew Lock's completed about 50% against you guys the last 2 years. What's been the key in defending him?
Well, I think, first of all, handling the tempo. And you see a lot of times on tape in their first 4 ball games where people aren't getting the line, aren't covering down, and the ball's being snapped, and he sees it. And he's able to get the ball out for an easy completion and a chunk yardage play. And that's number one, get your cleats in the dirt. And then I think fundamentals and techniques of staying on top of the coverage because there's a lot of deep balls down the field. And you got to be able to defend those deep balls down the field, which if you're able to, obviously they're harder to complete, so the percentages of completion are going to be more difficult. So I think that as much as anything, so much of what you face with them is getting your cleats in the dirt and getting ready to play and not putting yourself out of position by alignment and assignment.
Will, with the new redshirt rule, there's been 4 games. Has anybody on the team come to you and expressed a wish to maybe try their luck somewhere else?
Mm-mm.
It might be trivial in a different week, but how important is it this week with where your team is psyche-wise to be able to play a game at noon, get out there early, not have to spend all day thinking about a game?
I hadn't really thought about that. Whether we play at noon, 3:30, 4, 7:30, we're ready to play. I mean, whenever as a competitor, you want to get back on the field and play. Wish we could have played Sunday.
What is your approach with the team been in terms of peeling the paint off the walls, for lack of a better phrase, and being technical? And how do you come up with what's the right approach with any given team, any given week when things aren't going the way you might want?
Well, I think every team's different. All players are different, and any message to a team could be handled differently by different players, obviously. Going back through it and just watching the tape in our first quarter of the season, we're not doing some of the very simple things about football. We try and make this game complex. It's a real simple game. And some of the simple things we're not doing very well. We're not taking care of the football. We're not getting the ball off people. The number one goal in our organization is the ball, is taking care of it and getting it off people on defense. And when we don't have it, explosive play-wise, we've been pretty good offensively. We're right at 31 explosives in our first 4 games, which is right at 8 to 10 a game, which is kind of our goal each week as far as a 10-yard run or 20-yard pass. Defensively, I think we've defended it okay, not so much in the run game at times. But I think, again, I go back to doing the simple things well, and then I address each week with the things that, as a football team, that we need to improve on. And obviously it breaks down with Brian offensively and T-Rob defensively and Coleman on special teams, but how does it affect our team is my view.
What's your assessment of the linebacker play through the first 4 games?
Not what it needs to be, and I think those guys would tell you. We haven't been as consistent as we need to be. As far as disengaging, getting off blocks, we didn't do a good enough job on the first level in our last ball game of keeping people off the linebackers. and that was an emphasis going into the game. When you're playing a run team like that, you've got a friction, first level climbers to the second level, and we didn't do a good enough job of that in those situations, and we got blocked too much. So we need to make more plays. We need to be more productive at the position.
Obviously, this is a little about last year when you guys met, but that was an offense that was pretty good last year. You guys did a pretty good job slowing them down. What did you come out of that game saying we did well to kind of keep a cap on them?
Well, I think, handling the tempos is obviously important. I think staying away from explosive plays is obviously important. You get in the red zone. Now, they run the ball much better than they did a year ago, which is a huge difference. But you get in the red zone against a team that is primarily a throwing team and the field shrinks, it's a lot easier to defend them. Now, it's a different story this year because they're more committed to running the football. So that's a different deal that won't have no effect on this year's game. But those are the things I would say from last year that we did well. We played extremely well in the red zone. We blocked a field goal, I believe. I think they missed another field goal. But we played extremely well in the red zone. We had a fourth down stop, if my memory serves me correct.
Well, you were saying about how you can go more good on good now than you could a few years ago. Generally speaking, how much of an advantage is it for a coach that's been at a place 4, 5, 6 years going against a coach that hasn't been at a place as long, 1 or 2 or 3 years?
Well, the more you're there, the more the culture becomes who you are and what you want, and certainly what you've recruited to, and the depth that you have on your team, and all of those things factor into that.
So, like when you've been here 2 more years, your 6th or 7th year or whatever, it's going to be that much better?
Well, I'd hope so. Needs to be, or I won't be here.
Just kind of what kind of flexibility does Keel Pollard give you as a guy who can work in the slot and kind of move to a couple different spots?
Again, a guy that was a receiver coming out of high school in Moultrie, Georgia, Colquitt County. Really good hands, very, very dependable as far as those things are concerned, but has really worked himself into being a guy that can block in the C area and extremely competitive. That's the one thing at Keel, the first attribute I would talk in terms of him is his competitive edge. The guy competes. And he's been a very valuable member of our team, what he does for us on special teams. But he's really given us some things in the throwing game that's been beneficial for us, and he has really worked on himself as far as being able to block in the C area, which is important.
On Parker's missed field goal the other night, was the guy offsides who was streaking across? I don't mean to walk you into.
No, he wasn't offsides. He had a good jump. Okay. He really was. He wasn't offsides.
Okay. I saw you speaking with one of the referees, and I didn't know if you had
I was
an issue.
asking.
Yeah.
He wasn't offsides. I mean, dead serious. This is a correct call.
Coach,
when I'm wrong, I admit it.
Is the plan for KC to get the club off of his arm?
Yeah, they're going to work on that. I didn't get him in the other night. It was a pretty cumbersome club there as far as that's concerned, but we're trying to work to needle that down a little bit to put him in a better situation to catch a football. Yeah, yes, yeah, we totally have him. He practiced today and did everything. All righty, thank you.